From Model Bus headquarters at Iconic Replicas, this is Jeff Silver, and I'm here with a new bus update. Kind of tell you guys a little bit about a shipment that we received last week that included a number of vintage as well as some modern buses. Many of you have already purchased, but for those of you that haven't, this is kind of a little recap of what we received. The first one I want to talk about is the GM PD 4104. The 4104 was a bus that was produced by General Motors, and of course PD being parlor diesel, parlor kind of like a motor coach, as opposed to TD, which would have been transit diesel. So the PD 4104 was produced between 1953 and 1960, and over 5,000 of these buses were made. The bus incorporated a lot of the features seen for the first time on the Scenic Cruiser 4501, which included slanted larger windows, air conditioning, air suspension, and even toilets on board many of these buses. And these were trends that had never been seen before, but certainly resulted in ultimately the modern buses that we have today, which we take for granted, but back then that was pretty cool to have that. And it helped secure the bus industry ahead of the railroads and recoup a lot of the passenger travelers, onto the roads of the United States. So the 4104 that we've done, the versions of, include Michaud Trailways, or excuse me, I should say Michaud Bus Lines, which was a bus company that was started in 1914 and operated until 1995. But Michaud, out of Salem, Massachusetts, was a huge operator, part of the Trailways network at one point. And Jim Michaud is still involved very much in the bus industry, but this striking looking cream and navy blue version is one of my favorites. We did a Canada Coach Lines, which was an operator in Eastern Canada, mostly in Ontario between Hamilton and Toronto. La Cometa out of Brazil, the destination on this bus is Sao Paulo. Even to this day, La Cometa is a huge intercity bus operator in Brazil. Two interesting versions that kind of mimic Greyhound. One, in fact, that is Greyhound Korea. We did a bus for them. Greyhound licensed their name out to two countries, one of them being Korea, and the other being Nigeria, of all places. I have yet to see a Nigerian Greyhound bus. If you can find one of those, please send it to us. But the one that was used in Korea, the destination is Seoul, Korea, actually has Korean writing on it. The front and back does say Greyhound in Korean, but it's a kind of a neat piece. And essentially, when Greyhound retired buses, they shipped them overseas to be used by other operators. And these buses stayed in use in Korea well into the mid-1970s. We also did one for Chihuahuensis, which is an operator in Mexico, very much similar to Greyhound, although the running dog is replaced with a running rabbit. All of these buses, of course, available on the awesomediecast.com website for $39.95. But one special piece that we did acknowledges a historical event that occurred on May the 4th in 1961. With the bus burning involved around the Freedom Riders. So this bus acknowledges the 60th anniversary of the Freedom Riders. Now, who were the Freedom Riders? They were essentially civil rights activists who rode interstate buses into the segregated southern United States to challenge the non-enforcement of the United States Supreme Court decision, Boynton versus Virginia, which stated that segregated public buses were unconstitutional. And they essentially, mixed black and white on the bus. It wasn't just black people at the back, as was prevalent at that time. And a lot of people had a big problem with that. And when this bus, which was traveling from Washington, D.C. to New Orleans, arrived in Anniston, Alabama, they were surrounded by members of the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, and the tires of the bus were slashed, and it managed to limp out of the station and out of town, and about 3-4 miles out of town, it pulled over on the side of the road. It just couldn't drive anymore, and it was surrounded by an angry mob, one of whom threw a Molotov cocktail through the window, lighting the bus on fire in the inside, and they barred the door to try to prevent any of the passengers from escaping. So I guess they were intent on killing the riders, simply because they were trying to protect the civil rights that had been acknowledged by the Supreme Court. And at that point, it was whether it was like a gunshot from a police officer or some kind of explosion, the passengers managed to get out of the bus, and although many were injured, the only real casualty was the bus itself, which was burned to the ground. We've reproduced this bus exact in every detail, down to the smallest letter, down to the license plates. It took a lot of research to get this done right, but it is the acknowledgement of the actual bus that was burned. So if you're a collector of Greyhound historical pieces, this is significant. You definitely want to add this to your collection. And if you are somebody that collects civil rights memorabilia, this is also a piece that you would probably want to add to your collection, because it was very significant in the dark histories of our country in terms of acknowledging an event that eventually resulted in civil rights and equal rights for everybody, as should be in this country. A portion of the proceeds from the sales of this bus are actually being donated by Iconic Replicas to the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, and the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, Tennessee. So 15% of every sale is going to be donated, and if you want to add a cool bus, that is definitely the one, an important bus that you want to add into your collection. So that's the vintage side of things, the PD4104. We also got in 3 new modern buses, the Prevost X345. I guess Greyhound had a contest a couple of years ago where they asked people to design special graphics for the buses, and these buses were actually created, one-offs. One of them being the Go Far version in this teal color, which is very unique for Greyhound, with some neat graphics on the side. And one of them being the Love Your Journey version, which those of you that might have a magnifying glass may notice some people in the pictures seeing on the side of the bus as being, well, I'll just suffice it to say, you look at the pictures and let me know who you see. And if you want to mark it below, then, if you've got the bus already, feel free to do that. So those are 2 cool Greyhound one-off pieces, 504 made of each. When we sell out, and we will not make them again. So if you want to add them to your Greyhound collection, don't miss out on those. Also $39.95 on the awesomediecast.com website. When we started designing this bus, we had no idea that Bolt Bus would join the ranks of the fallen flags in our country, and in fact they ceased operation July 1st. So Bolt Bus is no more. If you want to acknowledge that bus as being a part of the history of buses in the United States, this is definitely one that you want to add. Actually, they operated into Canada too. So Bolt Bus no longer in existence, but you can still get the X345 with Bolt Bus graphics, $39.95 on the website. So that's essentially the update from Bus World, bus headquarters, bus, whatever you want to call it. Here at Iconic Replicas, we've got lots of things in production in terms of new castings, 4 of which we hope to release by December. So stay tuned, but until then, glad you didn't miss the bus, and thanks for your support. Stay happy, stay healthy, and we appreciate your business. Till then, take care.